Captain Elias Varon was a man who had walked on more planets than most people could name. He was not the strongest, nor the tallest, nor the most decorated officer in the fleet, but he had something rare. He had the gift of listening. In a galaxy filled with prideful leaders and quick tempers, his calm voice and patient words often stopped wars before they began. That was why he had earned the title of the quiet diplomat among humans and aliens alike. It was an ordinary evening aboard the human flagship Endurance, where Elias worked as a representative of Earth's diplomatic corps. He had just finished a long day of meetings with two rival mining colonies who fought over asteroid rights. He sat in his cabin with a cup of warm tea, hoping for silence. But silence rarely lasted in space. A soft chime echoed through his cabin. "Captain Varon," said the ship's artificial intelligence, a calm female voice named Lyra. "A priority. Transmission is waiting for you. It comes from the royal court of the Scifi Dominion." Elias frowned. The Scifi were one of the most secretive civilizations in the known galaxy. Few humans had ever spoken directly to them, and fewer still had set foot on their homeworld. "Put it through," he said, setting down his cup. A shimmering projection appeared before him. At first, he saw only a symbol, a golden crown floating above a circle of light. Then a voice filled the cabin. It was deep, smooth, and regal. "Captain Elias Varon of Earth," the voice said. "I am Queen Serenia of the Scifi Dominion. I speak not only as ruler of my people, but as protector of the old treaties and guardian of peace. I bring to you a proposal unlike any other." Elias straightened. He had spoken to governors, generals, even planetary presidents, but never a queen. "I am listening, Your Majesty," he said carefully. "My empire," she continued, "seeks a bond with humanity stronger than trade, stronger than alliances, stronger even than treaties. We wish for a union of trust. I, Queen Serenia, extend to you an offer of marriage. You will be my husband, and through our union, our two peoples shall stand as one." The room felt suddenly too small, too quiet. Elias stared at the projection. "Marriage?" he repeated slowly, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Yes," said the Queen's voice, steady and clear. "Marriage. You will not see my face until the day of the wedding, for such is the way of our customs. But know this. Your acceptance will bind Earth and the Dominion together for generations. Your refusal may be taken as rejection of friendship itself." Elias leaned back in his chair. He was a diplomat, trained to remain calm no matter what. But even he felt his heart race. To marry someone he had never met? To accept a proposal that could decide the fate of humanity's relationship with one of the most powerful alien empires in the galaxy? It was more than a personal choice, it was history. He asked the only question he could. "Why me?" There was a pause. Then the Queen's voice answered. "Because you listen. I have watched your dealings across the stars. You bring peace where others bring war. You carry patience where others carry anger. You will not see me, Elias Varon, but you will hear me. And I believe hearing is greater than seeing." The projection flickered and vanished, leaving the cabin in silence again. Elias sat in the dim light, his tea long gone cold. The next morning, the Endurance was filled with whispers. News of the Queen's proposal spread quickly. Officers and crew members exchanged glances, some with shock, some with amusement, others with fear. Marrying an alien queen was not the kind of decision one made lightly. Elias met with Admiral Corrin, the highest-ranking officer on the ship. The admiral was a stern man with silver hair and sharp eyes. "Captain," he said, "do you understand what this means? If you accept, you won't just be marrying an alien queen, you'll be binding Earth to her empire. If you decline, we risk insulting them, and the consequences could be dire." Elias nodded. "I know. But how do I marry someone I have never seen?" The admiral's gaze softened. "You are a diplomat. You've built trust without ever shaking hands. Maybe this is no different." For the rest of the day, Elias walked the halls of the ship, lost in thought. He passed by windows showing stars stretching endlessly into darkness. He remembered the many missions he had been on. The miners he had calmed, the colonies he had united, the soldiers he had disarmed with only words. Always he had been asked to think not for himself but for humanity. Perhaps this was the greatest test of all. That night, as he stood alone at the observation deck, Lyra, the ship's AI, spoke again. "Captain, do you wish for advice?" Elias smiled faintly. "You're an AI, Lyra. Do you even understand marriage?" "I understand bonds," Lyra replied. "A marriage is a bond. It is not built on sight but on trust. And trust is something you have always given freely." He gazed at the stars. "But what if she is nothing like I imagine? What if her world is too different from ours?" "Then you will learn," Lyra said simply. "That is what you humans do best." Elias stood there a long time. The silence of space wrapped around him, but inside his mind, questions clashed like storms. Finally, he drew a deep breath. He had always believed peace was worth any risk. The next day, he sent his reply. "To Her Majesty, Queen Serenia of the Zirathi Dominion," he said into the recorder. His voice was steady, though his heart was not. "I, Captain Elias Varon of Earth, accept your proposal. I do so not only as a man but as a representative of humanity. I do so with hope that our union will bring peace, understanding, and a shared future for our peoples. I accept." When the message was sent, Elias felt an odd calm settle over him. He had made his choice. Whatever lay ahead, there would be no turning back. Within hours, the Queen's Court sent confirmation. Preparations began for his journey across the stars to the Dominion's homeworld. Elias was given new robes of formal wear, crafted from both human and alien fabrics, symbolizing unity. Diplomatic officials arrived on the Endurance to prepare him for customs, rituals, and traditions he would soon face. But none of that answered the question burning inside him. Who was the Queen truly? What did she look like? What kind of life awaited him as her husband? And yet, when he closed his eyes that night, he remembered her voice. Calm, strong, wise. A voice that felt less like a stranger's and more like an echo of something he had been searching for all along. For the first time in years, Captain Elias Varon felt not the weight of duty, but the pull of destiny. And destiny, it seemed, had chosen him to marry an alien queen he had never seen. Captain Elias Varon stood on the docking platform of the human flagship Endurance. Around him, workers moved quickly, loading supplies, sealing containers, and checking the sleek silver shuttle that would take him far from human space. He had already said his goodbyes to the Admiral, to the officers who had served under him, and even to Lyra, the ship's artificial intelligence who had been his companion for years. Now he was about to begin a journey across galaxies to marry a queen he had never seen. The shuttle's door hissed open and a tall figure stepped out. She was not human. Her skin shimmered with pale blue patterns that moved like water, and her black eyes reflected the stars. She wore a long silver robe, and her voice was clear when she spoke. "Captain Elias Varon," she said, bowing slightly. "I am Envoy, Thylon of the Zirathi Dominion. I have been sent to escort you to our world." Elias bowed in return, remembering his lessons in alien etiquette. "I am honored, Envoy Thylon. I place my trust in you." The envoy gave a small smile, the closest thing to warmth her serious face seemed able to show. "Come, Captain. The Queen awaits." The shuttle lifted into the dark, leaving behind the human fleet. Through the window, Elias watched the stars stretch into long rivers of light as they entered faster than light travel. He felt the weight of silence pressing on him again, but it was not the silence of fear. It was the silence of the unknown. The envoy noticed his thoughtful look. "You are afraid," she said gently, not unkindly. Elias shook his head. "Not afraid, curious. Your people are so mysterious to us. Few have ever seen your homeworld, few know your ways. Now I am asked to live among you and marry your queen." Thalen studied him. "And yet you accepted." "Yes," Elias said, "because peace is worth the risk." The envoy gave a slow nod. Perhaps that is why the Queen chose you. For days, Elias traveled aboard the Scifi vessel. It was unlike any human ship he had ever seen. Its walls were smooth and curved, glowing faintly as if alive. The ship did not hum with engines like human vessels, but sang with soft tones that shifted like music. The Scifi crew treated him with respect but kept their distance. They spoke little, communicating mostly through gestures or short words. It was Thalen who spent the most time with him. She explained the customs of her people. "The Queen is the heart of the Dominion," Thalen said one evening as they sat in the observation chamber, watching a nebula glow outside. "Her role is not only to rule but to embody unity. That is why she has never married. She waits for one who will share her burden, not just her throne." "And you believe I am that person?" Elias asked. "I do not believe," Thalen said carefully. "But the Queen believes. And when the Queen believes, the Dominion follows." Elias thought of her words long after Thalen left. He wondered what kind of woman Queen Serenia truly was. Her voice had been calm, commanding, yet kind. Could a voice reveal so much? Could trust be built without a single glimpse of her face? As the days passed, Elias studied everything he could about Scifi culture. Their art was full of glowing patterns that shifted like flowing rivers. Their songs were deep, slow, and powerful, sung not with instruments but with harmonized voices. Their history was long, filled with wars, treaties, and the rise of the Dominion. He learned that marriage in their culture was sacred. To marry the Queen was not a private affair but a bond that tied whole civilizations. Once joined, the couple was seen as two halves of the same soul. Elias practiced their greetings, their gestures of respect, and even some of their language. He stumbled at first, his human tongue struggling with the deep tones, but Thalen corrected him patiently. One evening, as he practiced a phrase of blessing, Thalen tilted her head. "You learn quickly. Perhaps too quickly for a human." Elias smiled faintly. "I've always been a good listener. Words are bridges. The faster you build them, the sooner you can cross." Thalen gave a rare, approving nod. After several weeks of travel, the ship slowed. Stars returned to their normal shapes outside the window. Thalen came to him, her face serious. "We approach the Dominion," she said. "You must prepare yourself. Our world is unlike yours." Elias stood by the window as the ship descended. His breath caught as the planet came into view. It was unlike any world he had seen. Oceans glowed with soft blue light, rivers of energy flowing across the surface like veins. Towers of crystal rose from the ground, catching the sunlight and scattering it into rainbows. Vast forests shimmered with leaves that pulsed faintly, alive with their own light. "It is beautiful," Elias whispered. Thalen's voice softened for the first time. "Yes, it is." The ship landed on a vast platform of crystal where dozens of alien figures waited. Some were tall and slender, others shorter with scaled skin, but all wore robes that glowed faintly in the sun. As Elias stepped out, a deep sound filled the air, like a choir of voices humming in unison. It was not a song of welcome, but of recognition. "You are now in the Dominion," Thalen said. "Remember, you will not see the Queen until the wedding. Until then, she will speak to you through veils and projections. This is our way." Elias nodded. "I will respect your customs." They led him through shining halls of crystal and living light. The palace was vast, filled with murals that shifted like water, telling stories of past queens. In one chamber, he was shown his quarters, large, comfortable, decorated with a mix of human and Scifi symbols, a gesture of respect. That evening, as Elias stood alone in his chamber, a new projection appeared. It was her, not her face, not yet, only her silhouette hidden behind a veil of golden light. But the voice was the same, deep, calm, regal. "Captain Elias Varen," said Queen Serenia, "you have traveled far. You have left behind your people, your home, your world. For that, I thank you." Elias bowed. "It is my honor, Your Majesty." "You are here now in my dominion," she continued. "From this day until the wedding, we will speak often. I will learn of you and you will learn of me. Sight is but one sense, trust is built with more. Elias looked up at the glowing veil. Then let us begin, Your Majesty. Ask me anything. There was a pause. Then her voice softened. Tell me, what do you miss most from your world? The question surprised him. He had expected politics, strategy, duties. Instead, she asked something simple. Human. I miss the rain, Elias said after a moment. The sound of it on rooftops. The way it makes the air smell fresh. I don't know if your world has rain, but on Earth, it is both quiet and alive. There was silence. Then the Queen's voice said softly, We have no rain, but I would like to hear it if ever I walk on your world. Elias smiled faintly. In that moment, she did not sound like a distant queen. She sounded like someone curious, like someone reaching out. Perhaps he thought this marriage was not impossible after all. For the next several nights they spoke, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours. She asked him about human traditions, about his childhood, about his favorite stories. He asked her about her people, their songs, their beliefs, the burden of ruling. Elias found himself laughing at her dry humor, and she laughed softly in return. They were strangers still, hidden behind custom and distance, yet something invisible was forming between them. A bond, not of sight, but of words. And as each night passed, Elias began to wonder less about what she looked like, and more about who she truly was. When the days of waiting were over, Thalen came to him. It is time, she said. The wedding will be held tomorrow. You will see her then. Elias felt his heart quicken. He had walked across stars, spoken with a queen through veils of light, and shared pieces of himself he had not shared with anyone in years. Tomorrow he would finally stand at her side. As he looked out at the glowing city of crystal and light, Elias whispered to himself, Whatever she looks like, I already know her heart. And with that thought, he felt ready. The palace of the Zirathi dominion stood like a shining crown in the heart of the glowing city. Its towers rose high into the clouds, carved from crystal that caught sunlight during the day and pulsed with inner light at night. It was not just a building. It was a symbol of their history, a place where every ruler of the dominion had walked. Captain Elias Varen lived inside its walls now, preparing for a wedding unlike any humanity had ever known. Every morning, he was guided through lessons by Zirathi tutors. They taught him the proper way to stand before the queen, how to hold his hands when speaking, how to bow at the right angle, and even how to eat their food. Some of their meals glowed faintly, filled with strange fruits and shimmering grains, but Elias tried them all without complaint. At night, the queen's projection appeared in his chamber, always the same, her silhouette hidden behind golden veils of light, her voice calm and steady. Each night they spoke longer than before. One evening, Elias sat at the small table in his chamber. The projection shimmered into view, her form outlined in light. "Good evening, Captain," said Queen Serenia. "Good evening, Your Majesty," Elias answered, though now his voice carried a hint of warmth. Their conversations had begun to feel less like diplomacy and more like friendship. "Tell me of Earth again," she said. "Your oceans, your forests. I wish to picture them." Elias smiled. "The oceans are wide and they move with waves. The forests are full of green, not glowing like your trees, but alive with sound. Birds sing there, each with its own voice. When the wind blows, the trees whisper together, like they are telling secrets." The queen was quiet for a moment. "Your world sounds alive in ways ours is not. Here everything glows, everything hums. But sometimes I wonder what silence feels like." Elias leaned forward. "Silence feels heavy at first, but then you notice small things. The drip of water, the rustle of leaves, even your own breathing. It reminds you that you are alive." The queen's voice softened. "I think I would like silence someday." Their words lingered in the room long after the projection faded. Elias sat in thought, realizing how much he wanted to show her his world, not just as a queen but as someone who seemed curious, even lonely beneath her crown. Days passed quickly. Elias found himself growing more comfortable in the palace. The Zarathi guards who once watched him with suspicion now gave respectful nods. Servants who once spoke little now answered him with shy smiles. And Thalin, the envoy who had escorted him, became almost like a guide, explaining which halls were sacred and which gardens he could walk through. One afternoon, Thalin led him into a great hall filled with tall windows. At its center stood a vast golden veil, shimmering like liquid light. "This," Thalin said, "is the Chamber of Veils. Here, the Queen speaks with those she cannot yet meet face to face. She has asked for you to come." Elias's heart quickened. He had spoken with her in his chamber before, but this felt different. This was not a private projection, but a sacred place. The golden veil shimmered and her silhouette appeared within it. Taller than he expected, graceful, crowned with faint outlines of patterns he could not fully see. "Captain Elias Varen." Her voice echoed across the chamber. "Your Majesty," Elias said, bowing. "You have walked among my people. You have eaten their food, learned their words. You have shown patience. Tell me, do you regret your choice to come here?" Elias looked up at the glowing veil. "No, Your Majesty. I came here with questions, but your people have treated me with honor. And you have spoken to me as more than a ruler. I do not regret my choice." The Queen was silent for a long time. Then she said, "Then perhaps I do not regret mine." The hall grew quiet again, but Elias felt something shift. Trust was forming, not only between two civilizations, but between two people. Later that evening, Elias walked alone in the gardens. The plants here glowed faintly, their light reflecting on the crystal paths. He thought about her words, the way her voice had softened. He remembered his own doubts before leaving Earth. How could he marry someone he had never seen? But now, he began to understand. Seeing was only one part of knowing. Through her questions, her laughter, her silences, he had begun to glimpse her heart. A servant approached quietly and handed him a small crystal tablet. "From Her Majesty," the servant said before bowing and leaving. Elias turned the tablet on. A message appeared written in careful human language. "Tomorrow we will speak again," it read. "I wish to know more of your childhood. Bring me a story that shaped you." Elias smiled. She was not asking about politics or duty, but about his life. It was not a queen's command, but something closer to a friend's request. The next night, when the golden veil appeared, Elias sat before it with a story ready. "When I was a boy," he began, "I lived near a small town on Earth. There was a tree at the edge of the fields, very old. My friends and I used to climb it, though the branches were high and the climb was hard. One day I slipped and nearly fell. But my friend caught me, even though he could have been hurt. I remember thinking, this is what trust means. Someone holding on to you when you cannot hold on yourself. I never forgot it." The Queen's silhouette shifted slightly as though leaning closer. "And do you think trust is still the same, even between strangers of different worlds?" Elias answered without hesitation. "Yes. Trust is not about seeing someone. It is about believing they will not let you fall." There was a long silence. Then the Queen spoke softly. "You speak like one who has carried burdens. Perhaps that is why I chose you." Elias's heart stirred at her words. It was the first time she had spoken so openly of her choice. As the days drew closer to the wedding, Elias found that anticipation no longer frightened him. Each conversation with the Queen left him curious, thoughtful, sometimes even smiling. When he was alone, the mystery of her face, once his greatest worry, began to feel less important. He realized that he already knew her in the ways that mattered most: her questions, her kindness, her wisdom. One evening, however, as their conversation ended, the Queen surprised him. "Captain," she said, her voice steady, "the day of our wedding draws near. Soon you will see me for the first time, but before that I wish to ask you something." "Anything, Your Majesty," Elias said. "When you see me," she said, promise that you will look not with the eyes of a man, but with the heart of the listener I have come to know." Elias placed his hand on his chest and bowed deeply. "I promise." The golden veil flickered and faded. Elias remained kneeling long after, his mind filled not with fear but with a quiet, steady hope. That night, as he stood at his window overlooking the glowing city, he whispered to himself, "I have not seen her face, yet I feel as if I know her already." And for the first time since the proposal had been made, Elias felt not only duty in his heart, but something far warmer. The bond was already forming, and soon he would stand beside her not only as a diplomat but as her husband. The day of the wedding began with the rising of two suns over the Zirathi Dominion's capital. Their golden light struck the crystal towers, making them shine like fire in the sky. The whole city seemed alive, glowing brighter than Elias had ever seen before. It was as if the world itself knew something historic was about to happen. Captain Elias Varen stood in his chamber as servants prepared him. They dressed him in robes of woven silver and white, mixed with blue patterns that symbolized the joining of Earth and the Dominion. On his chest rested a crest that combined the human star emblem with the Zirathi crown. It was not just clothing, it was a message to the galaxy. Envoy Thalin entered the chamber, her face calm as always. "You are ready," she said. Elias looked at his reflection in the polished crystal wall. He barely recognized himself. "I hope so." Thalin studied him for a moment. "You have learned our ways quickly. Today you will stand before the Queen and before the galaxy. Do not think of fear. Think of trust." Elias nodded. "Trust," he repeated quietly. The palace's grand hall of unity was prepared for the ceremony. It was vast, larger than any hall Elias had ever seen, its ceiling reaching high into the sky. Light flowed through the crystal walls, creating patterns of gold and silver across the floor. Delegations from across the stars had gathered. Human ambassadors stood side by side with alien dignitaries, some tall and graceful, others short and scaled, others glowing faintly with strange energy. All had come to witness the first union between human and Zirathi. A choir of voices filled the hall, humming deep notes that echoed through the chamber. The sound was not only heard, but felt, vibrating through the bones, like the heartbeat of the Dominion itself. Elias entered slowly, guided by Thalin. All eyes turned to him. He walked with steady steps, though inside his chest his heart beat faster than ever before. At the far end of the hall stood the golden veil. Behind it was the Queen. The crowd hushed as the hum of the choir faded into silence. A voice rose from behind the veil, calm and strong. "Captain Elias Varen of Earth, you have come across the stars, leaving behind your world, your people, and your life as you knew it. Do you stand here willingly, ready to bind your future with mine?" Elias lifted his head. His voice rang clear across the hall. "I stand here willingly. I choose this union not only for duty but for trust, and for the hope of peace between our peoples." The veil shimmered. The Queen's silhouette shifted closer. Then let the veil fall. The golden light dissolved slowly like mist fading under the sun. And at last Elias saw her. Queen Serenia stood before him. She was taller than a human woman, her form graceful, her skin a deep silver blue that shimmered like polished stone. Patterns of glowing light moved gently across her skin, flowing like rivers. Her eyes were large and bright, filled with both strength and kindness. A crown of crystal rested upon her brow, but it was her gaze that held Elias still. For a heartbeat, the hall was silent. Then Elias bowed deeply. "Your Majesty." When he lifted his eyes, she was smiling, not a distant royal smile, but one that carried warmth. "Elias," she said softly, using his name without title for the first time. In that moment, the doubts he once carried vanished. She was not what he had imagined, she was more. Her beauty was not human, but it was real, alive, and commanding. And yet it was not her appearance that struck him most, but the same presence he had felt in her voice. Wisdom, patience, and quiet strength. The ceremony began. A Zirathi elder stepped forward, carrying a staff of crystal. Today, two worlds become one, the elder declared. Today trust is chosen over fear, and unity over division. Elias and Serenia stood side by side. Their hands were joined, human and alien, different yet steady together. The elder placed a woven band of light over their joined hands. As light binds crystal, so shall your bond endure. Speak now your vows. Serenia spoke first, her voice clear. I, Serenia of the Dominion, promise to walk beside you, Elias Varen, as queen and as partner. I promise to share my burdens, my victories and my hopes. With you, I choose trust. Elias felt the weight of the moment. He drew a deep breath and spoke. I, Elias Varen of Earth, promise to stand with you, Serenia of the Dominion, as husband and as friend. I promise to bring my patience, my strength, and my loyalty. With you, I choose peace. The choir's voices rose again, filling the hall like thunder and wind. The elder raised the staff high. Then before all who witness, I declare this union true. Two worlds are now one. The hall erupted with sound. Delegates clapped, hummed, or raised their voices in the ways of their own cultures. Humans and Zirathi alike cheered. Serenia turned to Elias, her eyes glowing softly. Do you regret your choice? She asked quietly, so only he could hear. Elias looked at her, truly looked. He thought of her voice that had comforted him across nights of uncertainty, of her questions that had touched his heart, of the trust that had grown unseen. He smiled. No regrets, none at all. For the first time, Serenia laughed, a soft, musical sound. It echoed through him like sunlight breaking through clouds. After the vows, the hall transformed into a place of celebration. Long tables appeared, covered with dishes from both Earth and the Dominion. Humans tasted glowing fruits, while Zirathi tried human breads and sweet drinks. The air filled with the sound of voices mixing, stories being exchanged, barriers breaking down. Elias and Serenia sat, together at the high table. For the first time, they spoke face to face without veils. Elias found that her smile came easily, her humor was gentle, and her presence was steadying. She was not distant or untouchable. She was real, and she was his partner now. At one point, she leaned closer and whispered, You spoke of rain once. Someday you must show it to me. Elias chuckled softly. And you must show me silence. Her eyes glowed brighter as if pleased by the exchange. Later that night, when the celebration had ended, Elias stood with Serenia on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. The twin suns had set, and the world shone with soft light from the trees and rivers of energy. It feels different now, Elias said quietly. This world. It no longer feels like a place I visit, but like a place I belong. Serenia turned to him. That is what a bond does. It makes two lives into one path, and perhaps two worlds into one future. Elias looked at her, the alien, queen who had been a mystery and was now his wife. He felt a calm certainty in his chest. For all the fear, all the doubt, all the unknown, he knew now that his choice had been right. He had married an alien queen without ever seeing her before. The wedding, and he had no regrets. The first morning after the wedding was quiet. Elias woke in the royal chambers where walls of crystal glowed with the soft light of dawn. Outside, the city stretched across the horizon, its towers catching the new day. For the first time, Elias did not feel like a guest. He felt like someone who belonged. The thought surprised him, but it filled him with calm. Serenia stood on the balcony watching the sunrise. Her silver-blue skin glowed in the morning light, and her crown rested lightly on her head. She looked strong and calm, yet her gaze was gentle when she turned toward him. Good morning, Elias, she said. Good morning, he replied with a small smile. I thought it might feel strange waking up here, but it doesn't. It feels right. Serenya's eyes softened. That is how trust works. It changes fear into calm. The days that followed were filled with responsibility. Elias and Serenya were not just husband and wife. They were leaders. The Dominion Council met with them daily, and human ambassadors stayed close to guide their side. Elias quickly learned that his role was not only personal but political. Some Sirathi nobles did not welcome him. They whispered that a human did not belong beside their queen. At the same time, some humans feared Elias had surrendered too much to alien rule. But Elias did not falter. Instead, he listened. When the nobles spoke with sharp words, he answered with patience. When humans raised concerns, he explained calmly. He reminded both sides of the vows he and Serenya had spoken, not only to each other but to all who witnessed. One day in council, a Sirathi noble said harshly, "How can this human lead us? He has not lived our struggles. He cannot know our ways." Elias rose slowly. His voice was firm but not angry. "You are right. I do not know all your ways. I cannot claim to. But I am not here to replace them. I am here to learn them, to honor them and to join them with what I know from my own people. Unity is not one side taking all. Unity is both sides walking together." The hall grew quiet. Serenya watched him, her eyes filled with pride. Outside the palace, the people watched carefully. At first, many Sirathi were unsure about Elias, but when they saw him walk the city streets without guards, when they saw him speak kindly to children, when they saw him listen to their concerns, something changed. One day, Elias visited the marketplace. Merchants displayed glowing fruits, woven crystals, and shimmering cloths. A child ran to him and handed him a small carved stone in the shape of a bird. "For you," the child said shyly. Elias knelt and smiled. "Thank you. I will keep it always." The crowd watched and whispers spread. Perhaps the human was not a stranger after all. But not all was calm. A group of separatists, Sirathi who feared change, planned to disrupt the Union. They spread rumors that humans sought to control the Dominion. They painted Elias as a spy, a trickster, someone who would betray the queen. When news of this reached the palace, many worried. The council urged Serenya to keep Elias away from public events, but Elias shook his head. "If I hide," he said, "it will only give strength to their lies. If trust is real, it must be shown openly." Serenya looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You are right. We will not hide. We will face them with truth." The chance came sooner than expected. A gathering was called in the Hall of Voices where citizens came to speak their hearts. Separatists had planned to confront Elias and the queen there. When Elias and Serenya entered, the hall was full. Some faces were welcoming, others suspicious. One separatist stood. His voice was loud. "Why should we follow a queen who binds herself to a human? Why should we trust him when he has no roots here?" the crowd murmured. All eyes turned to Elias. He stepped forward, his voice steady. "You ask why you should trust me. The truth is you should not, unless I give you reason. So I stand here, not to demand trust, but to earn it." He paused, letting the silence settle. "I left my home and everything I knew not for power but for peace. I married your queen without seeing her face because I believed her heart spoke truth. I stand with her not to rule you, but to walk with you. If I fail you, then let me be judged, but give me the chance to prove I stand for both our worlds." The separatist frowned but said nothing more. The hall filled with murmurs again, yet now they sounded different, less sharp, more thoughtful. Serenya placed her hand on Elias's arm. Together, they faced the crowd. That night, word spread quickly. Some still doubted, but many began to believe. As weeks turned to months, Elias and Serenya grew closer. They shared their lives not only in council but in quiet moments. She taught him the songs of her people, deep notes that carried across valleys. He told her stories of earth, of oceans, forests, and rain. She laughed when he described umbrellas, calling them portable roofs. Sometimes they walked the gardens together. The glowing trees lit their path and the rivers of light reflected their faces. In those moments, they were not queen and captain, not rulers or symbols. They were simply two souls who had chosen trust. One night, Elias said softly, "When I first agreed to this union, I thought it was only duty. But now, I see it as more. It is not just peace between worlds. It is peace within me." Serenia smiled, her eyes bright. "Then we have both gained more than we expected." Years later, the bond between Earth and the Dominion was stronger than ever. Trade flowed between the worlds. Knowledge was shared. Students from Earth studied the energy sciences of the Zirathi, while Dominion healers learned from human medicine. Conflicts did not vanish, but they were faced together. When disputes rose, Elias and Serenia stood side by side, showing that unity was possible. The galaxy began to speak of their union as a symbol of hope. And Elias, once only a starship captain, was remembered as the man who trusted an unseen queen, and by that trust helped change history. On a quiet evening, many years after their wedding, Elias and Serenia returned to the same balcony where they had stood on their first night as husband and wife. The city still glowed, the twin suns still set beyond the horizon, and the rivers of light still flowed through the land. Elias held the small carved bird the child had once given him. "Strange, isn't it?" he said softly. "How something small can remind us of everything." Serenia leaned close. "Small things are where trust begins, and from trust, great things grow." Elias looked at her, the alien queen who had once been a mystery and was now his closest companion. He thought of all that had passed, the doubts, the vows, the struggles, and the peace that followed. He smiled, his voice quiet but sure. "I had no regrets then, and I have none now." Serenia's eyes glowed warmly. She took his hand. Together, they watched the stars rise, and in the silence, two worlds beat with one heart.